The Watcher's Tale, Part 10, Healing. It had been a week since the battle between Eloheim and Matthias. Shortly after Eloheim had been saved by the flame that lived both inside him and Atheria, Liz took it upon herself to permanently remove Matthias. She took his body from the property because what Liz wanted to do, she did not want any of his essence anywhere near her family. Liz spotted a piece of hilly land far away from any population. She dropped Matthias's dead body and watched it fall like a rag doll. Liz landed on the ground near the body. She cursed his form. "You deserve this. You haunted my family for too long. I hope hell greets you warmly. I'll start." With those words, she lifted off the ground again and took her phoenix form. Hovering over the body, Liz spread her wings and in a quick movement closed them. From her wings shot a massive fireball that engulfed Matthias's body. The fire burned so hot that in a matter of seconds his entire body, flesh and bone, were gone. Even the ground around the body was melted, turning the rocks into puddles. The early morning sun crested over the horizon, waking the devastated land. The battle between both brothers had twisted and burned the land, leaving very little untouched by the supernatural. Walking the land, the three ancients, who rarely left their sacred glade, surveyed the area. Cagliestra, the forest ancient, reached into her gown, which was made of aspen leaves, and produced a white oak seed. She placed it on the burnt earth. Immediately the seed began to wiggle and burrow into the ground, planting itself. The water ancient slowly waved his hand over the spot, and water began to rain down upon it. "Just as the chosen family is healing, so must the land," Cagliestra said. The other ancients nodded their heads in agreement. "I shall help in this," said Luneth, who silently walked towards the trio. "It is good to see you, sister." Luneth bowed her head slightly. The four ancients formed a circle, joined hands, and raised them in the air. In unison, they began to chant, their voices sounding like a sweet melody together. As they chanted, a green shoot sprang from the ground they were circling. The white oak was springing to life. The four ancients continued to chant. As they did, green grass sprung from around the white oak and continued to spread further out. Even the craters created by the battle filled in with rock and dirt. They seemed to spring up from the ground like a pool of water freshly dug. Trees had been ripped out by their roots, stood up with help of one of Cagliestra's minions, a tree ant. Stirred by the noise, Jacob woke up in his room and ran to the living room, now repaired and with new windows. He was not alone. Atheria was standing outside on the porch. Jacob opened the door and walked outside. He hadn't known Atheria too long, outside of the time in the cabin, and of course the stories Eloheim told. Yet, the past week, he had worked closely with Eloheim's soul flame in helping Eloheim's recovery, which was long and hard. Sleep was a luxury to those in the house. As Jacob worked with Atheria, he remembered everything Eloheim had said about her, and he was right. Jacob had never met anyone so kind, patient, caring, purposeful, and strong. Jacob had witnessed her strength firsthand, not just in battle, but also when Eloheim had died. Jacob witnessed the strength that most would never lean on in her situation. Yet Atheria, even in her broken state, leaned on her strength. It seemed it had been rewarded when their flame, no, love, brought Eloheim back to life and back to her arms. Jacob watched as Atheria lit a cigarette and inhaled deeply and then exhaled slowly. "What are they doing?" he asked, pointing towards the four ancients. Before she could answer, a large tree ant moved a tree, more tree than man, lifted up a large fallen tree with one hand and dug a deep hole with his other. He then planted the tree into the hole. As he did, the tree's roots reached for the soil and dug in like a hand clawing the earth. Atheria smiled, and without looking at Jacob, answered, "They are healing our land," she said softly. "Jacob," she turned to the awestruck mortal, "I wanted to thank you for being there for Adonai during our separation. I know you were asked to do a simple task of just recording our story, yet you were thrusted in the chaos of... She paused. Her tone shifted to tired sorrow. Of what Matthias did. She took a deep breath. Thank you for being my husband's friend. And also, welcome. Jacob stood there, watching and listening. Welcome? Jacob asked. He was listening, though it was hard to pay attention with everything happening around him. Welcome to our family, Eloheim said. Atheria walked over to him and helped him walk. Eloheim walked with a wooden cane, carved with the serpent coiled around it. Jacob could see that each step brought pain. But he could also see the love Eloheim and Atheria had for each other. Eloheim's recovery was extremely painful. By all rights, he should be dead, but the power and magic of the flames brought him back. As for the darkness he embraced, his friend the demon came and helped remove all of it. At least, all that Eloheim had unlocked. This time, Eloheim gave the demon the key. Demon's bite. I want you to destroy this, is all Eloheim said to the demon. Though his body was healing quickly, his soul was taking longer to mend. Every day, Atheria was by his side, every morning and night. She held him through the night terrors, even joined him in his dreams. Sabrina would come in at times to give her mother a break, cleanse the room and the crystals, even held the big man's hand while he slept. Even Eloheim's sister, Jen, and her wife came over to help with the kids and the house. Jacob prayed that one day he would find that type of love and devotion. He also prayed that life would not be as exciting as Eloheim's and Atheria's seems to be. Atheria looked over at Jacob, as if reading his thoughts. Don't worry, Jacob. This isn't an everyday occurrence. Sure, we live a very intense spiritual life here, but most of the time our life is very domestic, with all our kids, PTA meetings, and normal human responsibilities. One could argue, outside of our spiritual life, we are a perfectly normal family. Jacob smiled. I don't think normal would ever be a label placed on your family, he said. Sabrina was the next to emerge from the house. She quickly ran out the door and off the porch, digging her bare feet into the new grass. This is amazing, she exclaimed. The four of them continued to watch as the land healed. Every tree that had been ripped up or destroyed now were back in their place. Grass now covered the scorched earth. Even the garden had been renewed, with every vegetable and fruit one can imagine now ripe for the picking. Oh my God, look! Sabrina exclaimed. She pointed towards the ancients, and from their center rose a giant white oak tree. Everyone on the porch looked in awe, as the new morning's light filtered through the leaves and branches, casting the shadows of the ancients in an ethereal way. A low groaning filled the land, and the earth began to tremble. Everyone held on to each other, not out of fear, but more in wonder. The crater, which was created by Eloheim's fall, began filling up with water. In place of the large crater was now a clear pond. Once the pond was filled, stone boulders took their place and made the shapes of steps. The ancients broke their chants and walked towards the family. Luna F stepped by the pond, reached toward her moon-shaped crown, removed a black diamond from it, and threw it toward the center of the pond. The surface of the pond rippled for a few moments, and then the water became calm, moved only by the breeze. Caliestra bowed her head towards the family. I can sense your other little ones still sleeping and dreaming, she said with a smile. You're right. The rest of our family arrived yesterday, Eloheim answered. I am glad to hear this, for we have renewed your land and blessed it with the mighty white oak, and my sister has blessed the water. May it rejuvenate all that enter it, Caliestra said, and then paused. We did not foresee the tragedy that befell your union and family. We are sorry for all that you have suffered. Now that the darkness has been defeated, may the rest of your mortal years be blessed with love and prosperity." Elohim and Atheria smiled and bowed their heads. With that, the ancients turned away from the family. As they walked, everyone except for Luna Eth vanished. She turned towards Elohim and Atheria. "May the birth of your son bring joy and blessing to our house, for he will lead our house into the next generation." With those words, Mother Moon smiled and then slowly vanished. Atheria looked at Elohim with both fear and joy in her expression. "I told you," Sabrina said, referring to a time she had a vision that a son would be born to her parents. Elohim held Atheria. "If we can survive all that we have, we can survive this," he said with a playful tone. The end.